In the heart of a fog-covered 19th century English village, there lived a man named Horace Fell. He was an odd fellow, a recluse who kept to himself and ran a small shop. The only sounds that penetrated the silence were the constant chime of his many clocks and the rhythmic tap of his hammer on glass. What made Horace Fell different was that every home in the village, without exception, had one of his clocks on the wall, all of them perfectly synchronized to the exact time. None were allowed to have a clock of any kind except for the one made by Horace. And every single one of these clocks chimed exactly at the same moment, as if they were all connected. There was something about his clocks that made them stand out, something that made them more accurate than any other clock in the world. But there was another peculiarity to the old man's life. He owned a large grandfather clock with an ornate golden frame, an heirloom from his father. It was an incredibly strange clock. Horace never touched it. It seemed to run on its own time, completely independent from the rest. And he warned everyone that if they ever tried to wind it, it would stop working altogether. One day, Horace fell violently ill and his son Elias took over the shop. Elias was an unusual young man. His skin was unnaturally pale, and he never seemed to speak. But what disturbed the villagers most was his unsettling smile, a constant, almost creepy grin that never faded from his face. As weeks went by, strange things began to happen. Milk turned sour the moment it was poured, candles burned out in an instant, and people swore they felt themselves growing older by the hour. Some even forgot entire hours of the day. One moment, they would be setting out on their daily tasks, and the next, they would be preparing for bed. Time was behaving erratically, slipping away like sand through an hourglass. Then one day, a man died of fright. He had been looking after his crops when suddenly, overcome by a strange feeling of foreboding, he looked at his pocket watch. To his horror, it was ticking backward. And moments later, he suffered a fatal heart attack. His clock, which until that moment had been chimming merrily along with the rest, fell silent. The grandfather clock also chimed a strange number. Every night, it chimed 13 times. Something that was impossible, since there are only 12 chimes in a clock. People became afraid. They barricaded themselves indoors, peeking out only when the clocks chimed, to see if they could catch a glimpse of the macabre show. But then one night, a group of brave villagers confronted Elias in his shop. They demanded answers, threatening to destroy his clocks if he didn't comply. And that was when Elias finally spoke, his voice as eerie as the events that had been unfolding. He said, "I've unshackled time from its restraints. Now it's free to do as it pleases." With that, the shop doors slammed shut and locked on their own. The brave souls trapped inside watched in horror as the hands on the clocks spun wildly in different directions. The reflection in the glass cabinets behind the counter showed not their own images, but those of old, frail men and women, as if they were looking at their own graves. One by one, the villagers vanished. Some were pulled toward the grandfather clock, their bodies dissolving into the chime as they disappeared. Others simply crumbled into dust, their bones turning to powder on the floor. In the end, only one remained. He stumbled back, knocking over a stool, but before he could make a run for the door, the reflection in the glass cabinet grabbed him by the ankles and pulled him inside, trapping him forever. The last chime of the grandfather clock echoed through the empty room. Outside, the sign above the shop still read "Fell" and "Son, time repairs." But no one ever entered again, for those who did were never seen.